ruling for all. This is why people try to take over the world, whatever, so they could declare one ruling for all. They want to be in charge, whatever. And if any person want to rule the world, they can't be of good. Because you're talking about forming everyone to one. More likely it's not going to be through free will. It may start off as free will, but it will turn to, obligation. We're going to turn to something else, by force, that everybody obliged to this direction. Because the whole point of it, if you're outside of it, outside of the rule of this, you are of opposition. You oppose it. And now you're a threat. And the whole point is to unify. Like, evil has to be unified. Because if it's divided, it cannot stand as a whole. Same thing goes for good. Good is made to be whole. If it's divided, you know what? Even with, I guess that is the difference. Even with good, if it's divided, no, there is no division in good. If it's good, it's good. God can stand up by himself because he's all good. He's whole. And I stand corrected with that. God is whole by himself. Evil cannot stand if it's divided. Good always can stand because it's whole of itself. One individual that has goodness is more than 10 billion without it. Because good is always unified. It's never broken. And that's the difference between good and evil. Thank you, Holy Ghost. That was all Holy Ghost right there. And when I say Holy Ghost, that's God's Spirit. And that's the point I'm making. If you are of good, then you are whole. Not of goodness of what man thinks good is. You know if you're whole or not. You know if you're missing something or not. If you're in evil, you're torn. Because you're in conflict. You're in constant torment. You have no peace. And you definitely know you're missing something because you would say, like, I'm not happy. I'm not in peace. So you're missing something. You're missing peace. And I'm going to say that individual really is not following good. If they're following good, if they're up under the coverage of good, they will have peace. Like I said, good is not broken. Good is not separated of itself. It's whole. One person of goodness can do more than 10 billion of evil. It would need all 10 billion to stand. If that 10 billion is divided, it cannot stand. Evil is not whole. It's broken. It needs it. That's why misery loves company. It needs more to feel. It needs more to stand. That's how darkness is built. Is built off of quantity. The more that it is, the more it can stand. I want to say to be able to oppose good. One good, ooh, that is so good. Thank you, Holy Spirit. One individual of good could tear down a nation of evil. This is the point of Jesus. I'm not saying it to threaten to somebody's, you got to serve him, or he is the truth for everybody. I'm not saying. I say that is the emphasis of why a believer believes in Jesus. We believe that as one individual, he has triumphed in so much good that he will conquer any massive amount of evil. Now, I'm not going to say Jesus is what color he is, what race he is, or ethnicity. It really doesn't matter. Because we are a spirit. If I look at myself as the texture of who I am, or the shell of who I am, I would never know who I am, because the outside doesn't dictate what my soul is. My soul has to make a decision what it's going to be. Either it's going to be of good or it's going to be of evil, not my body. You go to a cemetery and you open up you dig up a grave site. You go to a grave site and you dig up a grave and you pull up a casket, open up that casket, and what do you see? Do you see any shell of the individual? No, you do not. It went back to the dust of the ground. But yet and still, that soul still exists. We can't see it because we're seeing through the obedience of the shell. The soul is not in charge of the shell. The shell is in charge of the soul. So now you're talking about the desires, the lust, whatever the case may be, that's attached to the curse of the shell. We follow that. Versus our soul being enlightened, arising above the shell, where we can see more than what our body allows us to see. Let's say the five senses. You have two sets of five senses. You have the spiritual, which is who you are. You are a spirit. You have five senses of that, and you have the five senses of the shell. Question: a wild animal. Does a wild animal go by what they see, or do they go by what we would call intuition, instincts? This is why they sniff and they go by scent. They don't really go by sight, because that has no bearing. If you are a threat, you are a threat. No matter what you are, or what animal, or what species you are, if you are a threat, you are a threat. They have to take you down, or they have to defend, or whatever they have to do, because you are a threat, and that's based upon what's inside of you. They go by, the scent or the instincts, which is their spiritual way of discerning who you are. This is why in some cases you see, like wild animals that really don't do harm towards something that we would think that actually would. We see videos, we have seen demonstrations of this. And like, why is it not bothering them and it's bothering them? The animal goes by their inside, like for us to understand it, we would call it instincts or something like the animal instincts, or, so forth. But they go by a spiritual sense. It's just the same thing as we do. If it's a threat, it's evil. You have to get rid of it, because it's come to take over. It's come to destroy. And you have to get rid of what's there to destroy. So, okay, I'm going somewhere else. But anyway, I get back to this. We are a spirit. And 9 times out of 10, we are listening to our body to detect if it's good or not. I can look at a dish. Somebody give me a plate of put some items on it and everything else, and I will tell you if it's good or not. Not tasting it, not having an experience with it, or never. And I could say if I like it or not, based upon how it looks. So that's the shell of me, the outside. That has nothing to do with me spiritually. That's just what my 5 senses on the outside of my natural body has told me if it's acceptable or not. Now, if I were to go deeper into that, I'm speaking from, your spiritual, the light of you. The body is the darkness part of man. But we honestly flipped it and we think it's the light of us. Actually, the body is the darkness. Spirituality, or the spirit of man, is actually the light of man. We pay little attention to the spiritual man until we want to see something different in our lives. But that's actually where the end game is. The spiritual world. If we were in tune more spiritually, we will understand we understand what's going on in the atmosphere. Or we will understand where we're going before we get there. We will know more about us, why this happens, why that happens, or whatever. But since we don't, we meditate and think on things of the physical because we are obedient to the flesh. And it's interesting because the Bible would basically say, that is considered like defiling to God, because God looks at the body as cursed based upon disobedience, the original disobedience. Now, of course, I'm going according to biblical references. God had established order. Even before the earth, he had established order, what was considered good. And that's it. He didn't have to say what was evil. He just said, this is good. And there was only one command. Don't do this here. Don't go away from here. If you go away from here, it's going to open up all evil. That was the whole purpose of the tree of the knowledge of the good and evil. That was the whole point of it. You could freely eat of the garden. You could freely eat every place you want to eat from. But just don't go here. So it was only necessary of one commandment. Not to honor your mother, not to steal, not to kill, because no evil was brought to man until disobedience came. And now that opened up the world to nothing but evil. Man didn't know the difference between good and evil. He didn't have no need to it. He had no need for it. It was just good. So just stay away from here. Now, a person may say, like, how do we break that down for us now? Because it seems like it's so unfair, because we're up under that decision, or we're up under the effects of that. Well, this is where the justification of, oh wow, this is beautiful. Thank you, Holy Ghost. This is where it becomes so beautiful, because God gives us a clean start. As every soul is not bound to evil. There's a transference from one body to the next, and it's a passed on. It's a teaching. It's a culture, and that culture is a leadership, and it's passed on, passed on, passed on. But within every soul knows, because every soul can hear from good. We are all evil until we listen to good. 9 times out of 10, what will happen? I'm going to say, light has to appear in front of that soul for them to see the difference. Otherwise, they would think that they've been good inside of evil. But this is what makes God so good, because he has not given up on man. He haven't repented that he made man. He almost, because of the magnitude of evil, because, but God had a plan from the beginning, because he knew everything from the beginning, what was going to happen. So he set forth in motion for his plan to be illustrated, that man will come back to him. He hasn't given up on man. So some may say, how come he hasn't returned or whatever? Because he hasn't given up on man. His one desire is that we all come together up under him. And when I say him, I don't mean him as in male. Him as in God. Now, this is funny, because there's so many layers up under the the face behind the mask. There's so many layers in there. And I'm going to go here with male and female. If you notice, there's no difference between male and female. The only difference is what? The texture. The outside shell, what? She has certain parts, whatever. Male has certain parts. If that's our to identify male from female is what? Then what if they say what the characteristics? Now you're talking about, the soul. This is what makes everything really irrelevant. A lot of things that we base, because man is trying to find his origin. Man is trying to find his purpose. So we need something to identify with. We need something to basically to classify us, to give us definition, to give us purpose. So we look up under certain trees, like the what is that? What is it? I want to. Okay, I for the lack of the actual word, I'm going to say. Okay, I found it. Astrology. Let's say we go up on astrology and we want to do the whole zodiac thing. Okay, you have different signs. And so what man tried to do with the different signs is to make a decisive point. This is what this is. Whenever there's a category, it's to identify. It's to it's to group and gather. So man always fear what they don't understand. So if you gather everything that is of this into one area, is more to understand. Is less to fear in there.